Good morning, students. Welcome to the new session. In this new session, we'll start with chapter 1, and the name of the chapter is Integers. So let's start with our topic Integers. In this topic, we'll study about introduction to integers, representation of integers on number line, addition and subtraction of integers, multiplication and division of integers, properties of operations on integers, and simplification using BODMAS rule. So let's start with our topic Introduction to Integers. Since childhood, we had already studied about many numbers like natural number and whole number and many more. If I'll ask you what is natural number, you will simply say, sir, a counting number is known as a natural number which starts from 1 and goes to infinity. Similarly, if I'll ask you what is whole number, you will simply say, sir, please add 0 in natural number. That set of number will become whole number. Now take whole number and negative numbers. So this set of number is known as integers. So we can define integers as the set of negative numbers along with the set of whole numbers. For example, -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on, in which the number -4, -3, -2, -1 are known as negative integers, and 1, 2, 3, 4 are the number which is known as positive integers. The number 0 is neither positive nor negative. Now let's understand the next topic of our book, absolute value of an integer. An absolute value of an integer is the value of integer without considering its sign. Absolute value of an integer n is denoted by writing n between two vertical lines. Now suppose if n is an integer, then the absolute value of plus n is n and absolute value of minus n is also n. Let's understand the absolute value of an integer by an example. Suppose if I'll ask you to find the absolute value of plus 56, you will write this plus 56 without sign. So the absolute value of plus 56 is 56. Now if I'll ask you to find the absolute value of negative integer, that is -1024, you will write this number without sign, that is 1024. So the absolute value of -1024 is 1024. Now let's look the representation of integers on number line. To represent an integer on number line, you have to draw a line. Now mark 0 in between that line. Now mark natural number to the right hand side of 0, and this set of natural number represents positive integers. Similarly, to the left hand side of 0 will mark negative numbers, and this set of negative numbers is known as negative integers. So we can say that a positive integers always lie to the right hand side of 0 and the negative integers always lie to the left hand side of 0. Here are the some day-to-day life situation where positive and negative integers are used. Suppose if I'll take north as a positive integer, then you have to take south as a negative integers, and there are many more examples given in this table. Now the next topic which we are going to study about is addition and subtraction of integers.
Rules to add two or more like integers. First of all, we'll learn what are like integers. Integers with same sign are known as like integers. For example, -2, -3, -5 are like integers, and 2, 7, 9 are also like integers, but A negative and a positive integers are known as unlike integers. So these two integers are unlike integers. Now, rules to add two or more like integers. Add their absolute value. What is absolute value? Value of any integer regardless of its sign. That is, if this is -2, its absolute value will be 2. If a number is 3, its absolute value remains 3. Or if you write a number as +4, its absolute value remains 4. Now, the next rule says, keep the sign of like integers. Now, in case you have to add two negative integers, that means you have to add two like integers. First of all, you will find the absolute value of -2. The absolute value of -2 is +2 and absolute value of -5 is +5. Now add these two absolute values. So you get 5 + 2, 7. We'll write 7 here. So absolute value of our result will be 7. Now what will be the sign of this 7? Sign of this 7 will depend upon what type of integers we are adding. Because we are adding two negative integers, the sign of the like integers is minus, so the result will be negative. Similarly, if we are adding 2 and say 5, so we'll add their absolute values, which is 2 and 5 only, we'll get 7. So the answer will be 7. What will be the sign of this 7? Sign of this 7 will be the sign of the like integers, and these two like integers are positive, so answer will be positive. Rules to add two or more unlike integers. Now if you have two or more unlike integers, how to add them? Say we have -2 plus 5. So how to add this -2 and 5? What we are going to do is we'll find the absolute value of the integers given to us. The absolute value of -2 is 2 and absolute value of 5 is 5. So the first step is to find the absolute value of these integers, and my second step will be to subtract these two integers. When you add unlike integers, you actually subtract the absolute values. So when you subtract them, you will get 3. So the absolute value of your result will be 3. What will be the sign of 3? Now the sign of 3 depends on the integer with greater absolute value. So here this integer is greater. As this integer is positive, answer will be positive. Let me take one more example for you. Suppose we have 5 plus minus of 7. Here also 5 and -7 are unlike integers. So we'll find their absolute value. Absolute value of 5 will be 5 and absolute value of -7 will be +7. Because we have to add two unlike integers, we'll actually subtract the absolute values. We'll subtract the smaller one from the greater one. So you get 7 minus 5, 2. So the absolute value of your answer is 2. Now what will be the sign of this 2 depends on the integer with greater absolute value. So the integer with greater absolute value is -7. So -7 is negative, so answer will be negative. Now we'll learn how to add more than two unlike integers. So suppose you have -2 plus 3 plus -5. So first of all, we'll write the like integers together. So -2 and -5 are like integers, so I'm writing them before 3, and then you have this +3. Now add these like integers. As my step says, add the like integers. These two integers are like integers. Their absolute value is 2 and 5. So 2 plus 5 is 7. And the like integers have negative signs, so apply the negative sign. We'll use these rules to add them. So we get -7 plus 3. Now we know that when we have to add a negative and a positive integer, we find their absolute values and we subtract the smaller absolute value from the greater one. So you get 4 here. So my answer will be 4. What will be the sign? Sign will be of integer having greater absolute value. So the integer with greater absolute value is -7. So answer will be negative. Subtract absolute value of smaller number from the greater number as we discussed. And the sign of answer will be the sign of integer with greater absolute value. Next is Rules to subtract integers. Subtracting an integer is same as adding its additive inverse. So what is additive inverse? Additive inverse of 2 is minus 2 and additive inverse of minus 2 is plus 2. Number with opposite sign are additive inverse of each other. So if you have 35, its additive inverse will be minus 35. And if you have minus 25, its additive inverse will be plus 25. So the additive inverse of minus 25 is plus 25 and plus 35 is minus 35. Or we can say that two numbers whose sum is 0 are additive inverse of each other. For example, if I add minus 25 and plus 25, the result will be 0 because they are unlike integers, will subtract their absolute values. So 25 minus 25 will be 0 and we know that 0 is neither positive nor negative. So subtracting an integer is same as adding its additive inverse. Say we have to subtract minus 3 from 5. So what is additive inverse of minus 3? So additive inverse of minus 3 is plus 3. So it is same as adding additive inverse of minus 3. So the answer is 8. Similarly, let me take one more example. Minus 7 minus of 6. So subtracting an integer means adding its additive inverse. So what is additive inverse of 6? The additive inverse of 6 is minus 6. So we add here minus 6. Now we'll apply the rules of addition. So we'll add their absolute value. So 7 plus 6 will be 13 and sign will be the sign of like integers, that is minus. So my answer will be minus 13. Rewrite the expression using above rule. As we have done, apply rules of addition. Now we'll solve one or two questions for practice. Say our first question is minus 25 plus 30 plus minus of 20. So first of all, we'll write the like integers together. So we get minus 20 plus 30. Now we'll apply the rules of addition here. Two like integers, we'll add the absolute values. So absolute value of minus 25 is plus 25 and absolute value of minus 20 is plus 20. So on adding these two, we'll get minus 45 because both of them are negative. So we'll write it as minus 45 plus 30. Now these two integers are unlike integers. So we'll subtract their absolute values. We will get 50. Sign of the answer will be sign of the number with greater absolute value, that is minus 45. So answer will be minus 15. Let's solve one more question. So subtracting an integer means adding its additive inverse. So additive inverse of minus 25 is plus 25. So we will add 25 to 35. Our answer will be 60. Let's take one more example. Here, minus 25 remains as it is and subtracting a negative number means adding a positive number. This means the additive inverse of minus 35 is plus 35. So we will add its additive inverse. So additive inverse is 35. Now we'll apply the rule of addition. Because these are unlike integers, we actually have to subtract. 35 minus 25 will be 10 and what will be this sign? Sign will be of greater absolute value. So here greater absolute value is 35. So sign will be positive.
Now the next topic is multiplication of integers. Multiplication of integer is the same as repeated addition. When we multiply two integers, the product can be positive or negative. The value of the product depends upon the sign of the integers which are being multiplied. So to understand the multiplication of integers better way, we have to understand some rules. And the first rule is the product of two positive integers or two negative integers is always positive. Now let's understand this rule by an example. Suppose if I'll ask you to multiply two positive integers, that is plus 12 and plus 2. You will say, sir, our answer is always positive, that is 12 multiplied by 2 equals to 24, and as we know that according to this rule, two positive integers, when you will multiply two positive integers, your answer is always positive. So your answer is plus 24. Similarly, if I'll ask you to multiply two negative integers, suppose if I'll ask you to multiply minus 12 and minus 2. So again you will say answer is always positive, because when you will multiply two negative integers, we'll get always a positive integer. So your answer is plus 24. Now let's understand second rule, and the second rule says that the product of a positive integer and a negative integer is always negative. Again, let's understand this rule by an example. Suppose if I ask you to multiply plus 12 and minus 2, your answer is negative, that is minus 24. As the rule says that when you will multiply a positive integer and a negative integer, your answer is negative. Similarly, if I'll ask you to multiply minus 12 and plus 2, your answer is minus 24. Now the next topic is division of integers. To understand division of integers, let's understand some rule. The first rule says that the quotient of two positive integers or two negative integers is always positive. Let's understand this by an example. Suppose if I'll ask you to divide plus 20 by another number, that is plus 5, you will say answer is plus 4. As when you will divide two positive integers, your answer is always positive. Similarly, if I'll ask you to divide minus 20 by minus 5, that is both the number are negative integers. So this rule says that when you will divide two negative integers, your answer is always positive. So you can say that your answer is plus 4. Now the second rule is the quotient of a positive integer and a negative integer is always negative. Let's understand this by an example. Suppose if I'll ask you to divide plus 25 by a number minus 5. So what will be the answer? As the rule says that a positive integer, when you will divide a positive integer by a negative integer or a negative integer by a positive integer, your answer is always negative. So in this question, one of the number is positive and the other number is negative. Therefore, the answer will always be a negative integer, that is minus 5.